It was just past midnight on a cold stretch of highway outside Columbus, Ohio, when Ethan Miller's radio crackled to life. Single vehicle collision. Possible ejection. Unknown condition. Ethan sighed, not out of boredom, but from the weight of routine. 12 years as an EMT had taught him that some calls blurred together, while others burned themselves into your memory whether you wanted them to or not. He didn't know yet which kind this would be. The road was slick with freezing rain, reflecting red and blue lights like broken glass. A small sedan had spun off the highway and wrapped itself around a guardrail. The front end was crushed, steam hissing from the engine like a wounded animal. Firefighters were already stabilizing the vehicle when Ethan grabbed his trauma kit and ran. Inside the wreckage was a young woman, maybe late 20s, pinned by the dashboard. Her face was pale, streaked with blood, but her eyes were open wide, terrified and searching. When Ethan leaned in, she locked onto him like he was the last solid thing in a world falling apart. "Hey," he said calmly, the way he'd practiced 1,000 times. "My name's Ethan. I'm an EMT. You're not alone. I'm right here with you." Her breathing was shallow and uneven. He could see the signs immediately: internal injuries, severe trauma. The kind that made your chest tighten because your training told you what your heart didn't want to accept. "My name is Lily," she whispered. Her voice shook, not just from pain but from fear. Am I going to die?" That question never got easier. Ethan squeezed her hand gently, careful not to promise what he couldn't guarantee. "We're doing everything we can, Lily. Focus on my voice, okay? Stay with me." As firefighters worked to free her, Ethan stayed close, monitoring her vitals, talking constantly. He asked about allergies, about pain, about where she was coming from. She told him she was driving home from a late shift at a diner. She laughed weakly and said she hated closing nights but needed the money. Student loans, rent, life. Minutes stretched into something heavy and slow. Her blood pressure dropped. Ethan adjusted oxygen, called out updates, fought the creeping sense of helplessness. In his line of work, you learn to move fast and feel later or not at all. But Lily kept pulling him back. Can you tell me something?" she asked suddenly. "Anything," he said. "Talk to me like I'm going to be okay," she whispered. "Even if I'm not." Something cracked inside him. He leaned closer, his helmet almost touching hers. "Okay," he said softly. "You're safe right now. You're being taken care of. You matter. You're not invisible. And whatever happens next, you won't face it alone." Her eyes filled with tears. Not the panicked kind, something calmer. Something like relief. As they finally freed her from the wreckage, her condition worsened. The ambulance ride was short, but it felt endless. Ethan worked nonstop, hands steady, voice even, pushing back fear with muscle memory and protocol. Halfway to the hospital, Lily's breathing became erratic. The monitor screamed. The world narrowed to beeps and commands and seconds slipping away. Ethan leaned over her, gripping her hand again. "Lily, stay with me. Look at me." She struggled to focus, but then her eyes found his. And she smiled. It was small, fragile, and devastating. "Ethan," she said, barely audible, "if I don't make it, can you do something for me?" "Yes," he said immediately. "Anything. Don't let this job make you hard," she whispered. "Please, don't stop caring. Even when it hurts." Her grip tightened for just a moment. Then it was gone. They worked on her for several minutes after that. Compressions, meds, shouted times. But the outcome didn't change. Lily was pronounced dead shortly after arrival at the ER. Ethan stood in the hallway afterward, helmet under his arm, uniform stained, staring at nothing. He'd been through this before. Too many times. Yet something about her words clung to him like smoke. Don't let this job make you hard. In the weeks that followed, Ethan tried to push the memory away. He buried himself in shifts, doubled up on overtime, laughed at the usual dark jokes in the break room, told himself he was fine. But he wasn't. He started noticing how distant he'd become, how he rushed through calls, how he avoided eye contact with patients, how he treated pain like a checklist item instead of a human experience. Lily's voice kept returning at the quietest moments, driving home, lying awake at night, staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. One evening, after a particularly rough call involving a car accident with kids, Ethan sat alone in his ambulance long after his partner had gone inside. His hands were shaking. Not from adrenaline, from something deeper. He realized then that he had been surviving his job instead of honoring it. The next day he did something small but intentional. On his first call, an elderly man with chest pain, Ethan pulled up a chair instead of standing over him. He learned the man's name, asked about his wife. Listen, the man squeezed his hand and said, "Thank you for treating me like I'm more than a problem to solve." That night, Ethan went home and wrote Lily's name on a piece of paper. He placed it in his wallet behind his ID. A reminder. Promise. Months passed. Then years. Ethan became known among co-workers for something unusual. Not his speed, not his technical skill, but his presence. He talked to patients like they mattered. He stayed calm when others rushed. He trained new EMTs and told them, "You can save lives with your hands, but sometimes you save them with your words." He never forgot Lily. One spring afternoon, Ethan responded to another crash on a familiar stretch of highway. This time the victim was a young man, terrified, bleeding, asking the same question Lily once had. "Am I going to die?" Ethan knelt beside him, took his hand, and said the words that had changed everything. "You're not alone. I'm right here. And you matter." The man survived. Years later, at a department awards ceremony, Ethan was recognized for compassion and service. As he stood at the podium, applause filling the room, he didn't talk about heroics or sacrifice. He told Lily's story. He told them how one woman, in her final moments, had reminded him what it meant to be human. How empathy wasn't a weakness, but the reason the job mattered at all. And as he stepped down, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time.